You've been told that showing weakness builds connection. But here's what nobody wants to admit. When you show people your weakness, you're actually burdening them with your inability to handle your own life. Every person who sees you fall apart now has to carry the weight of knowing you can't be counted on when they need strength most. Your transparency becomes their anxiety about whether you can lead them through their own storms. There comes a moment in every person's life when they stand at the crossroads between being crushed by circumstances or being forged into something unbreakable. That moment is not when you feel strong. That moment is not when everything is going your way. That moment comes when you feel like you're about to break, when the weight of the world is pressing down on your shoulders, and when everyone around you is watching to see if you'll crumble. But here's what most people don't understand about strength. True strength is not the absence of pain. True strength is not the absence of fear. True strength is not the absence of struggle. True strength is what happens when you refuse to let your pain, your fear, and your struggle define who you are in front of others. Let me tell you about two trees that stood side by side in a forest for over 50 years. One was a mighty oak, thick and proud, with branches that spread wide and roots that ran deep. The other was a bamboo, slender and flexible, bending with every wind that came through the forest. For decades, people would walk through that forest and admire the oak. They would point to its massive trunk and say, "Now that's what strength looks like." They would dismiss the bamboo as weak, fragile, something that couldn't stand up to real pressure. Then came the storm of the century. Winds howled through that forest at speeds no one had ever seen. Rain came down like bullets from heaven. The earth shook and the sky roared. When that storm hit, something interesting happened. The mighty oak, with all its thickness and all its pride, tried to stand rigid against the wind. It refused to bend. It refused to give an inch. And because it wouldn't bend, because it couldn't adapt, because it held onto its image of what strength should look like, that oak tree snapped in half and crashed to the ground. But the bamboo bent so far in that storm that its top nearly touched the ground. People watching from their windows thought for sure it was finished. They thought for sure it would break. But when the storm passed, when the winds died down and the rain stopped falling, that bamboo slowly straightened back up, completely unharmed, still rooted, still alive, still standing. Now I ask you this question: which tree was really strong? The one that looked strong but broke under pressure, or the one that looked weak but survived the storm? This is the great paradox of power that most people never learn. They spend their whole lives trying to look like the oak tree. They build thick walls around their emotions. They put on masks of perfection. They pretend they never hurt, never struggle, never feel overwhelmed. And then when life's storms come, and they always come, these people break because they've never learned how to bend without breaking. But there's a difference between bending and being broken. There's a difference between being flexible and being weak. There's a difference between adapting to circumstances and surrendering to them. The bamboo didn't let the storm destroy it, but it also didn't try to fight the storm in a way that would guarantee its destruction. You see, when I tell you never let people see you weak, I'm not telling you to be rigid like the oak. I'm not telling you to pretend you don't feel pain. I'm not telling you to act like you're superhuman. What I'm telling you is this: there's a way to go through difficulty without advertising your vulnerability to everyone around you. There's a way to handle pressure without cracking in public. There's a way to maintain your dignity and your leadership even when you're going through the hardest season of your life. The world is watching you. Your family is watching you. Your colleagues are watching you. Your children are watching you. And they're not just watching to see if you'll succeed or fail. They're watching to see how you handle the pressure when it comes. They're watching to see if you're the kind of person they can count on when their own storms hit. They're watching to see if you have what it takes to be a leader, not when things are easy, but when things get hard. Here's what I've learned in all my years of studying human behavior and leadership. People don't follow perfect people. People don't follow people who never struggle. But people also don't follow people who fall apart every time pressure comes. People follow those who demonstrate that they can handle whatever life throws at them while maintaining their composure, their vision, and their ability to guide others. This doesn't mean you never feel weak. This doesn't mean you never have moments of doubt. This doesn't mean you never face situations that challenge you to your core. What it means is that you develop the skill, the discipline, and the wisdom to choose who sees you in your vulnerable moments and when they see you in those moments. Think about a pilot flying an airplane through turbulence. Inside that cockpit, that pilot might be feeling nervous, his hands might be sweaty, his heart might be racing. But what do the passengers see? They see someone calm, confident, speaking in measured tones over the intercom, telling them everything is under control. Why? Because that pilot understands that his ability to project confidence in that moment affects the emotional state of everyone on that plane. If he panicked, if he showed his fear, if he let his weakness show, it wouldn't just affect him, it would create chaos for everyone depending on him. That pilot isn't being fake, he's being responsible. He's being strategic about his emotion. He's understanding that leadership sometimes means carrying burdens that others can't see and handling pressures that others can't understand, all while maintaining the external composure that allows others to trust in his ability to get them safely to their destination. Your life is no different. Every day you're carrying people who depend on your strength. Your children need to see a parent who can handle life's challenges without falling apart. Your employees need to see a leader who doesn't crumble under business pressure. Your spouse needs to see a partner who remains steady when the family faces difficulties. Your community needs to see someone who proves that it's possible to go through hard times and come out stronger on the other side. This is not about living a life. This is not about pretending problems don't exist. This is about understanding that strength is a choice, not a feeling. Strength is something you do, not something you have. Strength is a skill you develop through practice, through discipline, through making the decision again and again that you will not let your circumstances dictate your character. The bamboo tree teaches us something profound about this kind of strength. Its flexibility comes from its structure. Those segments, those joints that allow it to bend, they're not weak points. They're actually what make it stronger than trees that have no joints, no flexibility, no ability to adapt. The bamboo has built-in mechanisms that allow it to yield without yielding completely, to bend without breaking, to survive storms that destroy more rigid structures. You need to develop those same internal mechanisms. You need to build that same kind of strategic flexibility into your character. You need to learn how to process your pain privately so you can project strength publicly. You need to learn how to handle your fears internally so you can inspire confidence externally. You need to learn how to work through your doubts personally so you can provide certainty to those who follow you. This is the beginning of real power. This is the foundation of lasting influence. This is what separates leaders from followers, survivors from victims, those who shape their destiny from those who are shaped by their circumstances. Now let me tell you about a corporate executive who learned this lesson the hard way. She had climbed the ladder of success faster than anyone in her company's history. By the time she was 35, she was running a division of 500 people and generating millions in revenue. But here's what nobody knew. Every morning before she walked into that office, she sat in her car for 10 minutes, taking deep breaths, fighting back tears, and putting on what she called her armor. This executive had convinced herself that showing any sign of uncertainty, any moment of vulnerability, any hint that she didn't have all the answers would destroy her credibility. So she built walls. She built them high and she built them thick. When employees came to her with problems, she never admitted when she didn't know the solution immediately. When the board questioned her decisions, she never acknowledged doubt. When her team was struggling, she never let them see that she was struggling too. For 3 years, this strategy seemed to work. People called her decisive. They called her confident. They called her a natural leader. But here's what was really happening behind those walls she had built. She was dying inside. The energy it took to maintain that perfect image, to never show a crack in her armor, to always have the right answer even when she didn't, was consuming her from the inside out. And then something interesting happened. A crisis hit her division. A major client pulled out unexpectedly, taking 30% of their revenue with them. The board was furious. Her team was panicking. And for the first time in her career, she couldn't fake having all the answers because she truly didn't know what to do. That night, she made a decision that changed everything. The next morning, instead of walking into the office with her usual mask of certainty, she called her team together and said something she had never said before. I don't know exactly how we're going to solve this, but I know we're going to figure it out together. You know what happened? Instead of losing respect from her team, she gained it. Instead of appearing weak, she appeared human. And because she was human, because she was real, because she admitted she needed their help, her team rallied around her in a way they never had before. They worked longer hours, contributed more ideas, and showed more loyalty than they ever had when she was pretending to be perfect. Within 6 months, not only had they recovered from the crisis, but their division was performing better than it ever had. And the executive learned something that changed her entire approach to leadership. People don't need you to be perfect, but they do need you to be strong enough to handle imperfection without falling apart. Here's what she discovered that most people never learn. There's a massive difference between showing weakness and showing humanity. There's a massive difference between being vulnerable and being helpless. There's a massive difference between admitting you don't know something and admitting you can't figure it out. The weakness that destroys your influence is not the weakness of occasionally not having answers. The weakness that destroys your influence is the weakness of falling apart when problems arise. The weakness that costs you respect is not the weakness of sometimes feeling uncertain. The weakness that costs you respect is the weakness of letting that uncertainty paralyze you or make you ineffective. When you wear a mask of perfection, when you pretend you never struggle, when you act like you have it all figured out all the time, you're not showing strength, you're showing fear. You're showing that you're afraid people will reject you if they see you as human. You're showing that you don't trust your own ability to handle challenges if people know about them. But real strength, authentic strength, unshakable strength, comes from a completely different place. It comes from knowing that you can handle whatever life throws at you, even if you don't know exactly how you're going to handle it when it first arrives. It comes from trusting your ability to find solutions, to adapt, to grow, to overcome, even when the path forward isn't clear. This kind of strength doesn't need to hide behind masks because it's not dependent on appearing perfect. This kind of strength doesn't need to pretend it has all the answers because it's confident in its ability to find the answers when they're needed. This kind of strength doesn't need to build walls because it knows it can handle whatever tries to get through those walls. Think about the difference between a person who pretends they never get tired and a person who manages their energy wisely. The person who pretends they never get tired will eventually collapse because they never rest, never recover, never pace themselves. But the person who manages their energy wisely knows when to push and when to rest, when to give everything and when to conserve strength for the battles that matter most. The same principle applies to emotional and mental strength. The person who pretends they never feel overwhelmed will eventually have a breakdown because they never process their stress, never seek support, never acknowledge their limit. But the person who manages their emotional strength wisely knows how to process their feelings privately, how to seek help strategically, how to maintain their composure publicly while taking care of themselves personally. Here's the key distinction you must understand. Privacy is not the same as pretense. Having boundaries is not the same as building walls. Being selective about who sees you in vulnerable moments is not the same as pretending those moments don't exist. A wise leader knows that there are different levels of relationship and therefore different levels of transparency. You don't share your deepest struggles with everyone, but you don't pretend with everyone that you don't have struggle. You have a small circle of trusted advisors, mentors, or friends who see you at your most human, but you have professional and public settings where you maintain the composure and confidence that others need to see from you. The executive I told you about learned to make this distinction. She stopped pretending she was perfect, but she didn't start falling apart in front of her team. Instead, she learned to acknowledge challenges without projecting helplessness. She learned to admit when she didn't know something without appearing incompetent. She learned to show her humanity without sacrificing her authority. This is a skill that must be developed. This is not something that comes naturally to most people. Most people swing between two extremes. Either they hide everything and appear fake, or they share everything and appear unstable. But there's a middle ground, a place of authentic strength that neither hides behind perfection nor collapses under pressure. The energy you waste trying to appear perfect could be invested in actually becoming stronger. The mental capacity you use to maintain a fake image could be used to develop real solutions. The emotional resources you spend on pretending could be channeled into genuine growth and improvement. When you stop pretending to be perfect, you free up enormous amounts of energy to actually deal with your challenges effectively. When you stop hiding behind masks, you can start building real relationships with people who can actually help you. When you stop wasting time on maintaining an image, you can start investing that time in developing authentic strength that doesn't need an image to support it. But remember this, the goal is never to show your weakness to everyone. The goal is to be strong enough that you don't need to pretend with anyone. The goal is to develop such genuine confidence in your ability to handle whatever comes your way that you never feel the need to fake strength you don't have. There was once a lighthouse keeper who worked alone on a rocky island off the coast during the most violent storms the ocean could produce. Every night when the winds would howl and the waves would crash against the rocks with the force of thunder, ships would depend on his light to guide them safely to shore. But here's what made this lighthouse keeper different from all the others. He never worried about whether his lighthouse would survive the storm. You know why? Because he had spent every calm day strengthening its foundation. While other lighthouse keepers would relax during peaceful weather, this man would inspect every stone, tighten every bolt, check every mechanism that kept his light burning bright. He understood something that most people never learn. The battles you win in private determine the battles you can survive in public. Every morning before dawn, when no one was watching, he would climb those stairs and clean that lens until it sparkled. He would trim the wick and fill the oil reservoir. He would check the rotation mechanism and polish the reflector. Day after day, in the quiet hours when there was no crisis, no emergency, no one depending on him, he was preparing for the moments when everything would depend on him. This is the secret that separates those who crumble under pressure from those who shine brightest when the pressure is greatest. Your public strength is only as reliable as your private disciplines. Your ability to handle crisis is only as strong as the foundation you build during calm seasons. Your capacity to lead others through storms is only as solid as the internal work you do when no one is watching. Most people wait until the crisis hits to start building strength. They wait until they're under pressure to develop the disciplines that create unshakable confidence. They wait until people are watching to practice the habits that produce authentic power. But by then, it's too late. By then, you're trying to build a foundation while the storm is raging, and that never works. The lighthouse keeper understood that his reputation, his effectiveness, his ability to save lives all depended on what he did when no ships were in danger, when no storms were brewing, when no one needed him. Those were the moments that mattered most, because those were the moments that prepared him for the moments that would test everything he was made of. Your private victories are the deposits you make in the bank account of your public credibility. Every morning you get up early to exercise your body, you're making a deposit. Every evening you spend reading, learning, growing your mind, you're making a deposit. Every moment you practice controlling your emotions when no one is testing you, you're making a deposit. Then when the storm hits, when people are watching, when everyone is depending on your strength, you're not trying to create strength in that moment. You're simply withdrawing from the account you've been building during all those moments when no one was keeping score. Here's what you must understand. Confidence is not a feeling you generate in the moment of pressure. Confidence is the natural result of preparation meeting opportunity. When you have prepared properly, when you have built the right foundations, when you have developed the necessary disciplines, confidence doesn't have to be manufactured. It flows naturally from the knowledge that you have done the work required to handle whatever situation you're facing. Think about a professional athlete standing at the free throw line with 2 seconds left on the clock and the championship on the line. The crowd is screaming. The pressure is enormous. Everyone is watching. But if that athlete has practiced that shot 10,000 times in empty gymnasiums, if they have prepared mentally and physically for exactly this moment, they don't feel pressure. They feel ready. That readiness, that calm confidence in the midst of chaos, that ability to perform when everything is on the line, that doesn't happen by accident. That's the result of countless hours of preparation that no one saw, discipline that no one applauded, work that no one recognized. The same principle applies to every area of your life. Your ability to stay calm when your family is in crisis depends on the emotional discipline you practice when your family is at peace. Your ability to make wise decisions when your business is under pressure depends on the mental habits you develop when your business is running smoothly. Your ability to provide leadership when your community needs it most depends on the character you build when no one is asking you to lead. This is why most people fail when the pressure comes. They have been coasting during the calm seasons. They have been relaxing when they should have been preparing. They have been assuming that strength would somehow appear when they needed it, without understanding that strength is built brick by brick, day by day, choice by choice, in the moments when it's not required. The lighthouse keeper never had to worry about his light failing during a storm because he had made sure it couldn't fail. He had removed every possible weakness, strengthened every potential failure point, and prepared for every scenario that might arise. When the storms came, he wasn't hoping his lighthouse would hold up. He knew it would because he had made it impossible for it not to. A young teacher walked into her first classroom on the first day of school, facing 32 students who had already decided they were going to test every boundary she tried to set. Within the first hour, paper airplanes were flying, students were talking over her, and chaos was taking control of what was supposed to be a place of learning. She had two choices in that moment. She could either break down and show these students that they had power over her emotions, or she could demonstrate that she was unshakable regardless of their behavior. But here's what she understood that many people in positions of authority never learn. Being strong doesn't mean being harsh. Being unshakable doesn't mean being inflexible. Maintaining control doesn't mean controlling through fear. She looked at those students, took a deep breath, and said in a calm, steady voice, "I can wait as long as you need me to wait. When you're ready to learn, I'm ready to teach." Then she sat down, opened her book, and began reading silently while the chaos continued around her. Something powerful happened in that classroom. One by one, the students began to realize that their behavior wasn't affecting her emotional state. They began to understand that she wasn't going to fight them, argue with them, or try to force them into submission. She was simply going to remain steady, remain calm, and remain ready to do her job when they were ready to do theirs. Within 15 minutes, that classroom was completely quiet. Within a week, those students respected her more than any teacher they had ever had. Not because she had been harsh with them, not because she had threatened them, not because she had shown them who was boss, but because she had shown them something far more powerful. She had shown them what it looked like to remain unaffected by other people's attempts to disturb her peace. This is the art of strategic strength display. This is understanding that real power is not reactive power. Real power is not the power to hurt people who try to hurt you. Real power is the power to remain steady when others are trying to make you unstable, to remain calm when others are trying to make you chaotic, to remain focused when others are trying to distract you from your purpose. Most people think strength means fighting back immediately when someone challenges them. Most people think power means never letting anyone get away with anything. Most people think leadership means always having to prove who's in charge. But this kind of reactive strength is actually weakness disguised as power. It's emotional, it's unpredictable, and it gives other people the ability to control your behavior by simply pushing the right buttons. True strength is strategic. It chooses its battles carefully. It responds rather than reacts. It understands that not every challenge requires a response. Not every insult deserves a comeback. Not every test of your authority needs to become a power struggle. The teacher in that classroom understood something profound. When you refuse to be disturbed by disturbing behavior, when you refuse to be moved by attempts to move you, when you refuse to lose your composure no matter what others do, you demonstrate a level of personal power that commands respect without demanding it. This doesn't mean you never take action. This doesn't mean you let people walk all over you. This doesn't mean you avoid confrontation when confrontation is necessary. What it means is that you choose your responses based on what will be most effective, not based on what will make you feel better in the moment. Sometimes strength looks like standing firm. Sometimes strength looks like walking away. Sometimes strength looks like speaking up. Sometimes strength looks like remaining silent. The key is developing the wisdom to know which response serves your long-term goals and the discipline to execute that response regardless of how you feel in the moment. When you master this level of strategic thinking, when you develop this kind of emotional intelligence, when you build this capacity for measured responses, you become someone that others can depend on to handle whatever situation arises with wisdom, with grace, and with the kind of strength that actually solves problems instead of creating new ones. Your strength is not just about you. Your refusal to crumble under pressure is not just for your own benefit. Your ability to remain steady when life shakes everything around you is not just a personal victory. Every time you choose to display strength instead of weakness, every time you choose composure instead of chaos, every time you choose to lead instead of follow when circumstances demand leadership, you are creating a ripple effect that touches lives you may never even know about. There are people watching you right now who need to see that it's possible to go through difficult seasons without falling apart. There are young people in your sphere of influence who are forming their understanding of what strength looks like based on how you handle the pressures in your life. There are colleagues, friends, family members who are facing their own battles and drawing courage from your example of how to stand firm when the ground beneath you is shaking. When you refuse to let people see you weak, you're not just protecting your own reputation. You're providing a service to everyone who needs to believe that strength is possible, that resilience is achievable, that it's possible to face whatever life throws at you and come out stronger on the other side. Think about the people who have influenced your life the most. Think about the individuals who shaped your understanding of what's possible when human beings are tested. I guarantee you they weren't perfect people. I guarantee you they faced challenges, struggles, moments of doubt just like you do. But what made them influential wasn't that they never faced difficulties. What made them influential was that they handled their difficulties in a way that inspired you to believe you could handle yours. This is the compound interest of consistent strength. Every time you choose to remain steady under pressure, you're making a deposit into the lives of everyone watching you. Every time you demonstrate that problems don't have to destroy your peace, you're teaching others that peace is possible even in chaos. Every time you show that setbacks don't have to derail your progress, you're proving to others that progress is possible even after setbacks. Your strength becomes their permission to be strong. Your composure becomes their model for how to handle pressure. Your refusal to quit becomes their reason to keep going when they want to give up. But here's what makes this even more powerful. The reputation you build through consistently demonstrating strength precedes you into every room you enter. People begin to know you as someone who can be counted on when things get difficult. They begin to see you as someone who brings solutions instead of problems, stability instead of chaos, leadership instead of confusion. This reputation becomes one of your most valuable assets. It opens doors that wouldn't open for people who are known for falling apart under pressure. It creates opportunities that are only offered to people who have proven they can handle responsibility without crack. It positions you for influence, for leadership, for the kind of impact that can only be achieved by those who have demonstrated they can be trusted with power. Your strength is your service to the world. Your ability to remain unshakable is your contribution to a world that desperately needs examples of what human beings can become when they refuse to be broken by their circumstance. Never let people see you weak, not because weakness is shameful, but because your strength is too valuable, too needed, too powerful to waste on temporary emotional relief. Stand strong. The world is watching. The world is counting on you.